CTBK is more than just a full-service accounting firm. They are one team with an innovative approach to accounting and rise to each new challenge with collaborative problem-solving skills. CTBK goes above and beyond by lending helping hands in the Buffalo and Niagara community through volunteer work and donations, and is partnered up with Victory Sports for 2020 and 2021 to keep kids in the community active. The professionals at CTBK are determined to help individuals and businesses succeed. Whether a large corporation, a small business, or somewhere in between, call CTBK at 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400, and see what CTBK's one-team approach can do for you.
We're joined now by Ken Campbell, who I have known for 20 years, back when he was covering the Toronto Maple Leafs for the Toronto Star. And then we were briefly colleagues, if you can call it that, at the Hockey News when I was the Sabres correspondent and writing the occasional column. Ken, of course, was higher and mightier than I as a senior writer for the Hockey News for a long time. But now he has a Substack called Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. And you could see all of his work there at kencampbell.substack.com. Check it out. I've been a subscriber since the beginning, and been looking forward to having Ken on. Thanks for doing this, Ken.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim. It's been a while, and yeah, it was only 20 years ago, eh? Yeah, well, I guess that checks out.
Well, you've been doing this for 35 years in total in terms of covering hockey.
Well, yeah, it's been about that. It's been well over 3 decades. I mean, my career's been going on for well over 35 years. Started at a small paper in Northern Ontario, and then
when you were 6.
What's that?
When you were 6, right?
When I was 6, yeah, exactly, yeah, and then went to the Hockey News in 1988. So basically, since 1988, I've been full on doing hockey for one publication or another.
Well, before we get down, I guess too much of a heated road. Let's, because, I'm compelled to have you on because I want to talk to you about what's going on with the Chicago Blackhawks and the NHL and the NHLPA in their handling of Kyle Beach's abuse and what it's led to with others. But before, let's start off a little more lighthearted here. The Buffalo Sabres. I mean, with everything that's going on in hockey, have you really had much of a chance to take a look at this team that everybody considered was going to rank 32nd in everybody's power rankings and is now looking competitive and legitimately competitive, not smoke and mirrors competitive?
Right. This is not just, this isn't the start they had a couple of years ago. I mean, this looks for real, and this looks like a team that really is going to, I mean, dare say it, like they might be playing meaningful games in March and April and that sort of thing. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but I do think that they are going to be playing meaningful games down the stretch, and I don't think anybody expected that. Like, there's a whole bunch of teams in the NHL that I'm really surprised at how good they are, and there's a whole bunch of teams in the NHL that I'm really surprised at how bad they are, and the Buffalo Sabres are on the good side of the ledger for sure.
And Kenny, the reason I wanted to bring that up is kind of like the backdrop of the main conversation that we're about to have, because given all of these villains, these relatively new villains, some old villains, in namely Gary Bettman, but I don't know if Stan Bowman or Joe Quenneville would be considered a villain as of a week ago. Obviously, Brad Aldrich, a name that wasn't a household name, if not for some brilliant reporting that's gone on. And it should have been because of Kyle Beach's complaints. But no, it took a lot of digging and spotlight shining. But this is a beautiful game, and a game that a lot of fans love, obviously, unconditionally, some conditionally, maybe even myself. And I think that when you have these decisions that are being made by Gary Bettman, by Stan Bowman, by Joe Quenneville, by Don Fear, that it really does kick the hockey fan right in the balls.
Yeah.
When it comes to trying to love this game and this league, it just really can't get out of its own way. And this might be the coup de grace. I mean, this is, Ken, 35 years, all the embarrassments that we've talked about with hockey. Today, and you wrote about it at Hockey Unfiltered, that this may be the worst of it all. Maybe, and I don't want to, I'm categorizing it as maybe. Perhaps you were pretty strong as saying this is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Bettman's been the commissioner of the NHL for 28 years now. He started in February of 1993. So 28 plus years. He's locked the players out twice. He still continues to deny any link between trauma to the head and CTE. He goes into lawyer speak an awful lot in times of crisis and controversy for this league. I have disagreed with Gary Bettman on an awful lot and an awful lot of times over the years. To my knowledge, and I stand corrected if that's the case, and if someone can prove it to me, I have never called for him to resign or be dismissed before. Never. I'm doing it now. This is it. This is the tipping point right here. Gary Bettman has been, from a business side, he's been an outstanding commissioner for the NHL. Revenues were in the hundreds of millions of dollars when he took over. It's now $5 billion a year industry when there's not a pandemic and everything isn't turned on its ear. It's a $5 billion a year industry. Franchise values are through the roof. He's made money for his 32 owners. He's very good at putting out fires when it comes to the business side of things. He's grown the game in a lot of areas that a lot of other people wouldn't have had the courage to grow the game in. That's not my issue with Gary Bettman. This one here is there's just been a lack of compassion, but also in times like this, you look to your leaders to lead. And I don't feel like Gary Bettman has been an effective and good leader. And given that, and given the fact that he's been doing this for 28 years, I just think it's time for a new voice. I think it's time for Gary Bettman to step down, or for the owners to say it's time for you to go. I'm that serious about it. Like, I don't say this stuff flippantly. Like, there's probably not a day that goes by where a fan or a member of the media says, "Oh, Gary Bettman's got to go." Right. Like they say it all the time. Like, Gary Bettman, looks out the window and it's like, Gary Bettman's got to go. Everything he does, Gary Bettman's got to go. So I don't say it flippantly. I never say that flippantly when it comes to someone's livelihood and their job and their passion and what they've done for decades. I don't say it flippantly at all, but Gary Bettman's got to go. And that's just the truth of the matter. That's just the reality, in my opinion.
Yeah. Gary Bettman's news conference today was not helpful. It was damning. It made things worse. It made the NHL look worse. Mm-hmm. The NHL fining the Chicago Blackhawks $2 million. And the point was made today. Some other cases were brought up in which the New Jersey Devils were fined $3 million for trying to subvert the salary cap with Ilya Kovalchuk. There have been loss of draft picks over working out players. There have been all kinds of things. We're seeing it similarly in the NFL with what's going on with Washington football team and all these big, thick reports that get sent out about deflated footballs or videotaping hand signals. But Washington football team has a toxic work environment in which women are afraid to show up on a daily basis, and there's no written report at all because they don't want the paper trail. I mean, not a great week for commissioners, but I don't want to get too far afield by talking about football.
You mentioned Rob Manfred saying, hey, it's a tomahawk chop. They're the Atlanta Braves. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, not a good year, not a good week for our sports leaders.
No, Adam Silver should probably just keep quiet for a couple of weeks.
Down.
Yeah. Like on Jeopardy, when the other two missed the question, you're like, I'm just not going to answer this one, and I'm going to gain by just not participating. I'm just going to let them keep shrinking backward. But Gary Bettman also pretty much punting right back to the Chicago Blackhawks and saying, Pontius Pilate washing his hands, they told me there was nothing to investigate. Well, then shouldn't you be fining them more than $2 million? Because not only did they lie to you, they're now making you look bad by your claim. You're claiming the Chicago Blackhawks dropped the puck on this one. And then they still get off easy compared to the Devils trying to sign Ilya Kovalchuk.
Yeah, well, and when he was asked about that, he said different circumstances, different factors or something like that. Well, duh. Yeah, we know that it was different circumstances and different factors. This was way worse. This is somebody's life that's been possibly ruined over this. And another 16-year-old kid in Michigan who ended up getting sexually assaulted because this sexual predator was released back into the world.
And Kenny, I want to make a point too, because I've been having discussions with this about people just because, I'm in press boxes and this is a major story. I always want to make it a point to say two people that we know about.
Right.
Because statistically speaking, predators and pedophiles do this a lot. And I'm speaking from someone who's done an awful lot of research on it. I'm not saying this off the top of my head. What's a sports writer know about this type of thing? Well, I know a few things. They do this a lot. So then he got caught with both of them. Dubious to believe that there aren't many others.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, there were others. I mean, he made advances to an intern after they won the cup, and the intern rebuffed him. There was another player that he made advances to who, thank goodness, was able to extricate himself from the situation. So, I mean, there's two right there just in that short time frame. So yeah, you have to think that there have been, really, it's about exploiting a power dynamic, and he's been in a position of power coaching, with USA Hockey, with the University of Miami of Ohio, with a high school team in Michigan. He owns I believe it's a window etching business or something, where he has apprentices and interns, young men who come and apprentice and intern with him. He has had opportunities. Let's put it that way.
He has control of your dreams.
Right, exactly.
This is a point that gets made about me or to me. When it has come up, I was over the weekend enjoying a couple of pops and watching the World Series, and it's a topic. And somebody mentions to me, well, how can he get himself in that situation? He was 20 years old or whatever. How can he let that happen? And you let it happen because you have a dream that you've had since you were 7 years old to play in the National Hockey League. And this is the guy who is supposed to get you into the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
That the team that drafted you 11th overall says you need to work with if you want to play for the Chicago Blackhawks. Or in other instances that he had, whether it was at Miami of Ohio, if you want to get to the NHL, or if in the U.S. development program, if you want to get drafted, all these types of things. And so, yes, these are grown men who young, but they're adults. True. Some of them are not. Some of them are boys. Some of them are minors. But they're in position to where they have to trust this person. And then the secret is now also a part of that power dynamic of, I cannot let anybody find out. And if anybody finds out, this is going to be embarrassing because they're going to call me names in the dressing room, which according to Kyle Beach, the Blackhawks found out, and they still did, because that's what guys do. They laugh, they chuckle, because they don't want to maybe face their own problems. So they make fun of you. And then he's got to sit there and take it, because his secret is a poorly kept secret. But if it gets out there, then it destroys his life. And that's his life. Yeah. And he can't ever have his dream of playing in the National Hockey League. And Kyle Beach never played in the National Hockey League. So imagine how that's eaten him up.
Yeah, didn't play a game, never played a single game, was one of their top prospects for about 3 years. So, I've heard this from other people as well. Well, how could it happen? Kyle Beach was a 6'3", 200-pound, 20-year-old guy. And Brad Aldrich is like my size. He's 5'6". He's 130 pounds. I'm not 130 pounds. I wish, but he was a small guy. And, how could this big guy have allowed this small? Well, it's a power dynamic. It's somebody exploiting a power dynamic. That's all it is. And you said it yourself, Tim. Like, it's like you've been working for this since you are old enough to remember. I mean, you start skating when you're in Canada, when you're basically out of the womb, at least at 4 or 5 years old, and you start playing hockey and you get this dream and you keep working towards this dream, and the bottleneck keeps getting thinner and thinner, and you keep still getting through that bottleneck. So now you're at the cusp of realizing this dream. I mean, of course you're going to do what someone in a position of power says that you have to do. Like that's a no-brainer. And why didn't he go to the police? Well, why do so many women who get sexually assaulted not go to the police? Why do so many people not go to the police? I've been thinking about this, and like, I don't think Kyle Beach, necessarily had a duty to go to the police, although he very well could have. But I keep thinking about this, and the people who knew, the people who were in the loop, the people of power, the people who had no skin in the game, the people who could have gone, and just one damn person, that's all it would have taken, was one person to go to a law enforcement person and say, here's what's going on. There's a sex crime going on. You have to investigate it. And nobody did it. Because, if the Chicago Blackhawks had taken care of this and fired Brad Aldrich when it happened and let him go, and he could have very well ended up in another place and done
and
this
not give and give him a glowing review on the way out the door that he could use to get other jobs.
Yeah, I mean, and these guys do that. They go from place to place. They're very good at going from place to place and finding the right place and finding vulnerable people. So I'm not saying that if the Chicago Blackhawks had fired him right there and then, he wouldn't have offended again, because he may very well have. But I know what would have stopped him in his tracks if somebody, one of these damn people had said to a policeman, here's what's going on, investigate it, there's a crime, you are law enforcement, deal with this.
And it's reminiscent to me also of the Joe Paterno case, in which the people who try to push things up the chain, Kyle Beach actually making a complaint, getting the NHL Players Association involved, or whomever it is at your workplace, you assume wrongfully, as we've learned in very ugly ways, you assume that authority within your workplace or your management, that they're going to take care of it, that it's going to be taken care of. That's where Joe Paterno said, well, I stopped thinking about it, and that was for the administration to worry about, or campus security or whatever. And with I'm sure Kyle Beach to some extent said, and he, talked about it in his interview with Rick Westhead, is that once you start getting stonewalled, you're like, I was wrong. I guess I shouldn't have done. I guess he was right and I was wrong, because his name's on the cup, and I'm not getting called up to play for the Blackhawks beyond being a Black Ace. So I therefore was wrong, and I guess so it just adds to the confusion. It's a shame. Kyle Beach is a hero for coming forward, because I think as long as he's John Doe number one, this story does not get the traction.
Yeah.
Even if he's blacked out and has a voice change, if you can't put an actual face to it and know Kyle Beach, then I see the pain on his face and in his voice, I don't think it resonates. I was aware of this case. It's been a trigger for me on a personal level. I don't want to necessarily get into that, but this has been very hard for me. And I think that people like Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman and Don Fear and Gary Bettman and Ken, these people way more than I do, because I've been covering football for too long, but there's probably a bunch of other names, Tim Cheveldayoff. There's probably some other names that not only victimized or added to the victimization of Kyle Beach, but they've added to the victimization of this kid in Michigan. They've added to the victimization of Tim Graham. They've added to the victimization of anybody who's ever had anything happen to them like this. And this is supposed to be an institution, a civic institution. I'm talking about the National Hockey League, the bastion of your sport that you love, that you are supposed to feel confident in investing your money in, your energy, your passions, put everything you can into this sport that you love. We got it. We are the stewards of your sport.
Mhm.
And that's where your column about Gary Bettman really stood out to me, is that, yes, business decisions. I forgot about the CTE thing. I mean, that's the main reason I've always hated the guy. CTE, I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
That in and of itself. But I mean, this gets, you can at least say, well, the hockey players know what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
You know, you can get there. Same thing. I've covered boxing, but if not for boxing, I may not be where I am in my career in terms of, you know,
Yeah,
you
can
get there with football.
You can say that, Tim. You can say that, but I'll also counter with this. There is a parallel there. What if, what about the guy who comes up? He's a decently skilled player, big guy, but maybe not quite good enough to play at the NHL level. Well, he has a coach tell him, well, you know what? Your ticket to playing in this league is dropping your gloves all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. That's fine.
Right.
You don't want to have a career. See ya, because we'll find someone else who does it.
You're right.
So
you're absolutely right.
There is a parallel in that respect, not in the same way, and that, but there have been many players. I just don't.
But that's a beautiful point, Ken, and I'm glad you made it, because I was thinking more of the skaters out there and getting hit into the boards. But you're right, that enforcer role and the fighting. You're right.
Out of all those guys that have done it, I've met. Ty Domi was one, definitely. I've met maybe 2 or 3 guys that liked it, that actually liked doing it. Ty Domi was a player who could play, but he fought because he liked it. Most guys hate it. They hate every second of it. It causes them no end of anxiety. They wake up that morning, they're nervous all day. They look over the run, they look over their lineup. They go, okay, this is the guy I'm going to have to fight, and they have to prepare for it. And so it takes a toll on those guys too. And as we're seeing more and more increasingly, it takes a very, very personal toll on them later in life. So
right, you're absolutely right. So yeah, Gary Bettman's handling of this has been ghastly.
Mhm.
He's at the top, obviously, and same thing with Donald Fear. But the Blackhawks. Okay, maybe I hesitate to bring this up because I took a ration of shit for this when it was a story that was happening here in Western New York. And Ken, if you don't want to talk about it, I didn't even think I was going to ask you about this.
Okay.
Does this cast any wonder about how the Blackhawks handled Patrick Kane over the years? They were the ones that told us there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I don't want to make an accusation, but I mean, this is a guy who was actually investigated for sexual misconduct. We've seen the Deadspin articles and all that stuff, and beating up a cab driver, and but we want to win Stanley Cups.
Yeah, exactly. I will say one thing though. I mean, there was a legal investigation into Patrick Kane that found, that the charges were not with merit, I guess you could say. I'll leave it at that. So
that's true.
So I mean, there is that. He has, a legal sort of decision on his side. But there have been a lot of things that have gone on with this team, a lot of things. And you begin to wonder where, well, you don't wonder. I mean, they've told us, and they made it very, very clear that winning Stanley Cups was the number one primary objective here, and everything else is second behind that. I mean, they've had some pretty bad stuff go on in that organization with people involved, with people behind the scenes, particularly that group. So I will say this. I think this is a time of reckoning for Gary Bettman, for Donald Fear, for all the people who've been fired. I think it's a time of reckoning for the Chicago Blackhawks too. And I think that if there was ever a time where there is a time for a complete and utter rebranding of this organization, it's now. It's now. You change your name. You change your logo. You get rid of all the vestiges of this terrible thing that's happened in the past little while. you start new, you create, you get people's trust back doing something like that. Because, and you know, you would know this better than I do, but the Washington football situation, I mean, you know, the name change came about because it's a terrible name and it's racist and everything. But part of it was not part of it fueled by all of this other stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think if Daniel Snyder was a great owner, then they're still probably under the previous nickname. It was kind of a concession. Like,
right.
All right, well, we know that you've been honest about the nickname and the imagery and all that stuff. The headdresses and the face paint. We'll get rid of that, but don't pay any attention to what we're doing here in the front office with our female employees.
Right, exactly. So you know, I mean, if it can happen there, it should happen in Chicago. And I really do think that this is a perfect opportunity for the Chicago Blackhawks to rebrand themselves as something else, to put this behind them in terms of just divorcing yourself from that stain on your legacy. And I think the perfect way would be to change the name, change everything.
Really, I mean, that's the original six, you know, all that stuff. Ken, that's a big thing.
Sure it is. But we all know that, you know, that it's not cool. Like, it's just not cool anymore. You know, I mean, that logo is not right. It's not right. It doesn't
big seller, right? Isn't it still one of the biggest sellers?
It doesn't honor anything or anyone.
That's right.
And there is no Blackhawk tribe, you know, I mean, it doesn't honor anybody. It doesn't bring anything other than cultural appropriation to anything. So if you're gonna, like I said, if you want to really move on here, I think a complete rebrand is what's in order.
What's your take? The last man's, or one of the last men standing. No, all right. I need to rephrase that yet again, because as long as Donald Fear and Gary Bettman are still there, those are two guys. We don't know Bill Daly's role in all this. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he was not in the dark.
Right.
But Kevin Cheveldayoff, who I think I may have referred to as Tim Cheveldayoff earlier, that's back in the brain.
Tim Chevelday. Yeah, you mixed up Tim Chevelday and Kevin.
I covered Tim Chevelday as a member of the Las Vegas Thunder many years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What a great guy too.
Yeah.
Great dude. Anyways, Kevin Cheveldayoff.
When Detroit had Tim Chevelday and Alain Chevrier, there was somebody had a great line. We have two Chevys and we can't get out of the garage. So I digress.
That is a great line.
Yeah.
Well, does Kevin Cheveldayoff get out of the garage in Winnipeg? What's your take on him? It's a little murkier with him, but a lot of people think that he should suffer the same fate as Joel Quenneville.
Well, I mean, and based on everything that Gary Bettman said today doesn't lead me to believe that there's any difference. It's particularly between him and Stan Bowman. First of all, he was the assistant GM, and part of Gary's justification was that he's not a member of the senior leadership group. Well, I don't know. Most organizations, I think assistant GMs are senior enough to be included in that group. And secondly,
and I think you could assume, Ken, that if you go on to become an NHL general manager, you had your training at some point, right? He was learning. I mean, it wasn't like he was, getting the coffee in Chicago. He got that job because of what he did in Chicago.
He was handling prospects and he was handling their salary cap. And so, but then he said, he kept going back to, and this is where there's like a total disconnect for me, is I wasn't any closer to being convinced that he should just be, absolved here after Gary Bettman spoke today than before. Like he kept saying that, well, Kevin Cheveldayoff, I was convinced that he thought that this was going to be taken care of. Well, yeah, Stan Bowman thought it was going to be taken care of too. And that was part of the reason why he was fired. So why, if one guy thinks somebody else is going to take care of it, gets fired, and the other guy doesn't? I don't, you know what? I don't understand why Kevin Cheveldayoff. Now you got me thinking it's Tim Cheveldayoff. Kevin Cheveldayoff. Now
planted that seed.
I don't understand why Kevin Cheveldayoff was not sanctioned more than he was. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know why. And and what's worse is I'm no clearer on it today than I was before Gary Bettman started talking about it. So My long-winded answer to you is I don't know what's going to happen to Kevin Shoveldayoff in Winnipeg.
What other, we're focusing on Gary Bettman. That was your, that was the topic of your column anyway. Any other dominoes that you think need to fall in this? Or maybe dominoes that should fall, but we don't know what they are yet because everything has been covered up so much that maybe a little transparency would let us know who else deserves to get fired.
Well, I don't know if anybody deserves to get fired, but I sure would like to know who those 39 people were that didn't cooperate with the investigation. I'd really like to know who they are and what they would have had to say. I mean, they had no subpoena power. They had no, I'm not sure what the legal term is, but they didn't have like, swearing in powers or whatever they're known as legally. But I would have liked to have heard from those 39 people that saw fit not to cooperate with this investigation and why and what they would have had to hide, because they talked to 139, another 40 turned them down. So that's 180, 40 of 180. That's almost a quarter of the people that they approached said, no, thanks. I think I'm going to sit this one out. I would like to know who those people are and what they would have had to say if they would have been subpoenaed in something like this. I still, from what I understand, there's no statute of limitations on sexual assault. I think that Kyle Beach still probably has a criminal case here if he wants to pursue that. As far as people being fired, I mean,
is that a Canadian thing, Ken? In Canada, there's no statute of limitations?
I believe it's, well, I know in Canada. I don't know if it's right. That way in other places.
It depends on the jurisdiction, obviously.
Yeah, and I've been told that in Illinois there is not a statute of limitations. So I think that avenue is still probably open to Kyle Beach should he choose to pursue it and sort of go through this whole nightmare again. I don't know if he wants to do that. His name has to come off the Stanley Cup, absolutely. So other people that should be fired, I don't know. I mean, I think anybody, I'm not sure about firing, but I think anybody who knew anything about this and didn't do something about it needs to be dealt with and either suspended or lose the privilege of working in the NHL without doubt. I just don't know who those people are.
And I think that there's a possibility because Congress can do whatever it wants in many cases when it comes to investigating things. They can come up with all kinds of reasons, like they are doing with Washington football team right now. They are not happy with the NFL's lack of transparency in this.
Yeah.
What's to stop Congress from saying, you know what, we're going to open this up they could do it broadly and say of all sports in our leagues here, because for the same rationale that they're using for Washington football team, or just a separate one where we're saying, we're going to look right at the Chicago Blackhawks, just like we're looking at Washington football team. And we are going to get into bringing people right here in front of us. Stan Bowman, you can come sit here and talk to Congress. Tell us what you knew. Gary Bettman, come on down. You can sit here and face some questions. And I don't think that there would be a lot of bipartisan shielding. You know, you see a lot of hearings, especially here in the United States. I know it happens in Canada too, where there'd be a hearing and there's clearly one set of politicians who are on the offensive and another set of politicians that are providing cover. I think in a situation like this, there would not be a lot of cover for Gary Bettman, just as there wouldn't be for Daniel Snyder or Roger Goodell.
See, I think that this is the one time when the NHL is going, whew, lucky nobody cares about us. It's like, lucky these lawmakers and senators and Congress people really don't even know we exist. So we'll just keep it that way on that front for sure. But yeah, I mean, that might be the one time where they're like, okay, well, our low profile might actually help us right now.
Right. 90% of Congress right now is saying, whew, good thing this happened in Canada. Right. Because they just assume it's hockey, no, the Blackhawks are actually in the United States, Congressman.
Exactly.
Not to get too flippant about it. Ken, this has been a good conversation. I think a necessary conversation. A lot of venting needs to be done. And I think there are a lot of people out there who need to hear grown men talk about some of these things sometimes because we know how things are in sports. And as we addressed earlier, there is a sentiment out there of, you gotta be tough and be able to, punch that guy right in the nose, or
Right.
man, I wish he would have tried something with me. I'd have kicked his ass if he'd have.
Yeah.
That doesn't. Kyle Beach is no less of a man. In fact, I think of him as one of the great men on the planet today.
Absolutely.
And anyways, I appreciate it. Anything you want to add that I didn't ask you about? Other than plugging Hockey Unfiltered again by going to kencampbell.substack.com, sign up for it. And great stuff. But Ken, I'm sorry. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think you pretty well covered it, like a good reporter does.
Well, I don't know about that. I probably could have done better research. I probably could have not called Kevin Cheveldayoff by the wrong name.
That's okay.
But I can be forgiven. I can be forgiven.
Yeah.
Anybody who's met Tim Chevelday is allowed that earworm because I think about it every time I hear the name Cheveldayoff.
Exactly.
Ken, what's coming up? Anything coming up at Hockey Unfiltered? I know that you cover things as they happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to be sort of keeping track of these things. I do a weekly notebook that comes out tomorrow. So it's Tuesday. My Tuesday notebook will come out tomorrow. I've actually got a pretty interesting thing going now. I'm putting together a panel and I'm ranking the top 50 small men in NHL history. So that's a good one. That'll be a good one.
What's the criteria?
The criteria is you have to be considered a small player for your era. Okay, so like Marcel Dion was a small player. Howie Morenz was smaller than Marcel Dion. However, Howie Morenz was pretty close to an average sized player in the 20s, right? So you can't have been more than 5'9" to start. That's the cutoff right there. Ever. Yeah, okay. Like in any era. And you have to have been, like I did it according to like heights and weights of NHL players through the eras. So I've adjusted it for eras. And so, yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be kind of fun.
I hate to throw a fly in the ointment. Can you throw a fly in the ointment, drop a fly, insert a fly in the, I hate to be the fly in the ointment.
Right.
Ken, especially guys who are on the smaller side lie about their height all the time. What if there's a great 5'8" guy out there, but he swears he's 5'10" his entire career.
And then there you go. Then you lose because you
You're out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It comes back to
honesty. Honesty.
That's
the common thread throughout this entire podcast. It's just be honest and everything will work out.
Yeah. And you know what? So then all the 5'9" guys are 5'7". So now the cutoff's 5'7". Right. There you go.
Have we gotten started on this yet?
What's that?
Have we gotten started on this yet?
Oh yeah. I'm well into it. It'll be coming up pretty soon. If the NHL ever has some slow days where there's not like a bunch of this kind of crap going on, that's when it'll appear. So
right on, man. Well, I look forward to that. I have some smaller guys I'd like to see on there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Daniel Briere on there.
Yeah, a couple of guys who played for the Sabres. Danny Gare, great.
Oh, right.
Danny Gare was a great small player. Yeah. So some guys like that. It'll be fun.
Ken, I've enjoyed this. The topic notwithstanding, but it's passionate discussion. And needed discussion with a guy who I really respect.
Thank you.
And I applaud your work and look forward to maintaining my subscription at Hockey Unfiltered. And best of luck to you.
Right back at you, my friend.
All right. That's Ken Campbell of Hockey Unfiltered. You can follow him at kencampbell.substack.com. Oh, I don't have it here in front of me, Ken. What's your Twitter?
Oh, K Campbell _27. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't. Yeah, I think it's K at Ken Campbell _27. I believe that's what it is.
Let me help you out here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ken _Campbell 27.
Okay. That's it.
Ken _Campbell 20. What's 27 for?
My favorite player growing up was Frank Mahovlich. So I've always worn 27 playing hockey, and it's one of my go-tos. So yeah, that's it.
Righteous. Thanks, Ken.
Okay, thank you. See you, Tim.
The financial needs of a business go beyond tax and attest services. That's why CTBK goes beyond accounting services and offers outsourced solutions through their affiliation with CFO Solutions Plus. These additional services allow clients to focus on their operational and long-term strategic goals. Trust CTBK's outsourced solutions to provide cost-effective, value-added financial services tailored to your company's needs. Call CTBK at 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400. Or go to ctbk.com to learn more about CTBK's outsourced solutions.